Today on RC Overload, we're taking a look at the all-new 1/12 scale ECX Barrage. Welcome back to RC Overload, you guys. Yes, today we are taking a look at the all-new ECX Barrage here, and honestly, I am super excited to show you guys this. I've been wanting to show you guys it for a little bit now. I've had some time to really look this thing over, and to be perfectly honest, before we get into this, I am very impressed at the overall quality and what you get out of this crawler for the price point. Even though it is 1/12 scale, and it is definitely more on the lower end price point, overall, you're getting quite a bit out of this crawler. So, with that being said, let's get you guys in. Let's show you guys what this thing is all about. We'll show you guys what comes in the box. But first, let's talk about what's on the box. So, first things first, obviously on the front we got a beautiful looking picture of the ECX Barrage. Lovely, lovely. First thing you're going to notice is it says it's a 1.9 12th scale four-wheel drive scaler. So what that means is it actually comes with 1.9 size tires and wheels, which I think is fantastic because it now opens up the options for upgrading and improving your tires and wheels on it, even though they're actually not bad. But it is cool that they did that. And again, it is 1/12 scale, so it is a little bit shorter than that of a 10 scale, and we'll show you guys a comparison of that here near the end. But on the lower, it says it's durable, composite nylon and aluminum frame. Now, I want to get into a little more of that because I did notice something about it, but as I mentioned, we'll get more into the truck here, and I'll show you guys about that. It is waterproof. Waterproof ESC, servo, and receiver. So everything is waterproof, but as a disclaimer, not everything is always fully waterproof. I go more along the lines of things are water resistant. So just be careful. Even though it says waterproof, just always be careful. It'll run through puddles, no problem, whatnot. But if you get it submerged, there may be a possibility you could accidentally fry the electronics. Anything's possible. So just be aware of that, okay? And impressive detail. Scale truck with licensed Falcon 1.9 tires. Very cool. So, what are some of the other features about this truck? Well, like we had just mentioned, licensed Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires, four-wheel drive shaft-driven drivetrain, 4 LED lights, aluminum motor plate, locked differentials, axle-mounted steering servo, multi-link suspension, and metal ring and pinion gears. So already right there, that list, that's quite a bit, especially, again, for this price point of the truck. Now, for those of you that don't know what the price point is, at the time of this filming, you can find the ECX Barrage for about $180 on Horizon Hobby's website. Now, that could change. You might find a different price somewhere else as well, but that's the price on Horizon Hobby at the time of this filming. And I want to mention that it does come with everything you need right inside this box to get going right from the get-go, basically. All you got to do is charge up your battery and you are good to go. But let's get into a little more about what it is that you actually get with the ECX Barrage, and then we'll go into all the little cool details about the truck itself. So the first thing that you guys are going to notice once you open up the box, now everything is located underneath the truck. It is going to require some zip ties getting cut in order to get the transmitter out. Now, this does come with a basic 2-channel transmitter. It's nothing fancy, but for the most part, it's actually a decent stock controller. It doesn't feel overly light and cheap. It actually has a nice grip to it. The springs inside the steering and the throttle are nice and tight, so it doesn't, again, feel cheap when you're pulling on the throttle or hitting the brake or turning the steering wheel. And they did add in a little bit of detail work to the steering wheel by adding a cool little rotor and a blue caliper behind it. So that's pretty cool. Actually, you don't see that much on that many controllers, so cool little feature there. Again, it does have a stubby antenna, and it does have all of your basic controls, as most basic stock 2-channel transmitters will have. It comes with both the throttle trim and the steering trim buttons, well, knobs, I should say. And if you pop open the cover, you're going to find that it has both steering and throttle reverse switches. So if you ever put in a aftermarket setup in it and you find out things are backwards, you can usually just hit a switch and get it corrected. Okay, so that's what those are for. And it also has throttle and steering adjustments. And what that means is that you can adjust how much throttle you actually want the truck to have if you were to pull the trigger all the way. So you can make it really slow or make it really fast by adjusting the knob on top for throttle. Now steering, if you wanted to have more throw in your steering, have a sharper turn or a wider turn, you could again adjust that knob as well on top. Also, it does have two lights that let you know if the battery is fully charged or if it has a couple of dead batteries in it and you need to replace them. It does come with 4 stock AA batteries, nothing fancy, but they should last you a few runs anyways before they wear out. Moving on from the transmitter, it does... Whoa! Almost lost that. Moving on from the transmitter, it does come with a very basic wall charger for the NIM battery that this comes with. Very simple, plug it into the wall, plug it into the battery. It says it takes approximately 9 hours to charge this battery. So if you want to improve that charge time, you will need to look at getting an aftermarket charger. Usually you can cut that down by a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes for this battery, depending on the charger you get and basically the quality of it. So that's an option as well. The last thing that you're going to get, other than the transmitter, the charger, the AA batteries, and the truck, is obviously paperwork. So this does come with the instructions. Make sure you read it. It will explain everything in case you need to rebind your truck or how to properly charge it or do any of the other functions as well. The instructions will tell you that. And unfortunately, which I always love to see in trucks, is I love to see sticker packs. But unfortunately, this truck didn't come with it. No big deal, because I actually want to change out the body anyways later on down the road. So not the end of the world for me. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit about this beautiful truck right here. So, the ECX Barrage. Very cool looking truck, honestly. Right now, before we get into anything else, the first thing I want to say is I personally don't like the color of the body. You know, I could have gone with something a little bit more darker, but hey, I'm not going to complain for the price point and what else you actually get with the truck. The body can always be changed. You can always get the same body clear. They do offer it, and you can always paint it however it is that you want. But overall, it's not that bad looking. The first thing you guys are going to also notice is the bumpers on both the front and rear of the truck are plastic, and they actually do have some really cool LED lights in it, which are plugged right into the receiver, so they're on at all times when it's running. So that's a cool feature that you really don't see much, especially in the 110 scales, is LED lights coming right out of the box. Usually that's something that you have to put on after the fact. Talking about the tires and wheels, again, these are 1.9 tires and wheels. These are the Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires. They are very soft. Not very sticky, no, but they are very soft. It does have foams inside. The wheels themselves are plastic, so it's nothing special. It's not bead-locked. They're just glued on there. But overall, I'm actually quite impressed at the quality of the tire. It should do very well for crawling. So, with the body off of the truck now, the first thing you will notice is the electronics that are in the truck. And as mentioned, they are supposedly waterproof, but as always, I say they are water resistant, okay? But it will come with a 6-cell 900 milliamp NIM battery pack. Very basic, very stock. You're looking at getting about 30 minutes runtime. I've seen some guys actually mention that they were getting about 45 minutes runtime out of this battery pack, which actually isn't that bad for its size of it. But you can always improve on that, which we're going to show you guys in another video, a battery option that you can put into this. But moving on from the battery, it does come with EC3 plugs, like as with all ECX trucks do. The motor is a 370, all right, not a 380, but a 370 sized brushed motor. And from what I can tell, messing around with it here in the studio so far, it is quite torquey and very fast, actually. It has a lot of wheel speed to it, which is really good, actually. You get some obstacles where you do need that wheel speed. It's not always a bad thing to have. Moving on from that, you have your basic 60 amp ESC, which is supposedly LiPo rated for both 2 and 3S. However, I'm not sure I really want to try 3S with that size ESC in it, and those size wires, but I will eventually try out 2S on it. So we'll see how that works. but you can switch it just by pulling up the tabs in the back to change its settings or change it from NIM to LiPo. Either way, we can get more into that, guys. If you want to know how to calibrate the ESC and stuff like that, just let me know in the comments box below. And the receiver itself is actually a 4-channel receiver. It's nothing fancy, it's just a basic 4-channel. So it does give you a lot more room to add on other accessories like a winch or LED lights or stuff like that. Instead of a basic 2-channel only maybe having one open spot where you could do that, this one right here actually has, by the looks of it, 2 open ports on it, which isn't bad at all. I'm actually quite surprised it came with a 4-channel. But hey, maybe they were thinking of us and putting all the accessories and the cool stuff on it. So moving on from the electronics, we're going to go talk about the drivetrain a little bit. You'll notice that the drive shafts are plastic except for the ends where the yokes are actually hardened steel, which is really cool. That's not something you guys usually see out of a 1/10 stock crawler for the most part. Usually they're all plastic. Again, for the most part. So to have steel yokes and ends on the drive shafts is a huge plus right there. It's kind of like an upgrade already out of the box. So less likely to break that, but the center of the shaft is just a composite plastic or a nylon, basically. The axles themselves are a very, very narrow set of plastic axles. Nothing special there, but you will notice that it does have aluminum knuckles and C-hubs right in the front, along with the steering linkage in the front is also partially aluminum as well. Again, that's not something you really see in most crawlers out of the box. So another great little upgrade already right there. Also, I do want to mention that the wheels, now that I'm looking at it here real quick, the wheels do have an aluminum spacer behind it, so it does help push the wheels out. Again, because the axle itself is very narrow, in order to get that proper wheel space in it, they needed to widen it a little bit. So it does have aluminum hub adapters already there. Talking about the suspension a little bit, it comes with both front and rear 3-link suspension setups, all aluminum, solid aluminum links. Again, that's an upgrade usually on its own. So again, to see that, it was awesome. The shocks are actually mounted on the inside of the frame. Now that's not something you usually see. Usually everything's on the outside of the frame, but because of the narrowness of the axles, they ended up having to put them on the inside. I'm not exactly sure the exact length of the shocks. I mean, they look pretty close to possibly being right around 80 millimeters or something like that. Maybe it is 90. Somebody might actually know, and you guys can feel free to chime in below. But they do have rubber spacers or bump stops on the shocks themselves to prevent the wheel from hitting the body or anything else. If you guys want to know how to improve the articulation of your truck, I'll show you guys that as well in another video. But as simple sake, you can always just trim that bump stop up a little bit. And that'll actually give you guys a little more flex if you guys want that. Now, speaking of the shocks again as well, they do have aluminum caps on it. Again, it's not something you usually see right out of the box, so it's very cool to see all that aluminum basically on the truck itself, as well as all of these other cool little upgrades already right out of the box for this price point of a truck. But as I wanted to mention, I talked about the frame and everything being nylon. The one biggest problem that I see with this truck is the flexibility of the chassis. Now, most chassis are very solid. They don't really have a lot of flex to them. I mean, you can always improve it and put some aluminum stuff in there. But the one biggest thing I notice about this truck is the aluminum is not all that rigid. You can actually take the truck and you can twist it like crazy. You guys can probably get an idea. Now, I'm just grabbing the bumpers and I'm just giving it a little bit of a twist, and there's quite a bit of flex there. So that is kind of one downside to the truck that I can pretty much see right away. Otherwise, from everything that I'm noticing, it actually seems like a really solid truck, a really great truck for that price point and what you're getting out of it. Again, I know it's 1/12 scale, but it's really not that bad. It actually comes with quite a bit of stuff, and it should do very well still on the trail, even though it's smaller. But that it pretty much covers what it is that comes with this truck. And I do want to mention real quick, because I did forget about it when we were talking about the electronics, is the steering servo. Now, the steering servo is just a basic stock Spectrum servo. There we go. Totally forgot that name. It's just a basic stock Spectrum servo with produces about, if I remember correctly, 54 ounces of torque out of the servo, so it's not all that strong. That's something I'm actually going to look into possibly upgrading. Something a little higher than 100, maybe closer to 200 ounces to really get a great crawl out of it without it binding up when I need to make certain maneuvers or get over certain obstacles. So that's going to be an upgrade. I might try to find a way to increase the overall tension of the chassis to, you know, kind of prevent a little bit of flexing. For those manufacturers that are out there trying to come up with some ideas possibly for this, look into ways to improve the chassis, okay? There you have it. So now comes to the part of the show where you guys just want to see the comparison between this and an actual 1/10 scale truck. So I'm going to go grab the ECX 10-2 to compare it with. So here we have both the ECX Barrage 1/12 scale and the Axial ECX 10-2, which is 1/10 scale. As you can tell right away, the ECX Barrage is just slightly shorter, not by a whole lot, but it is a little bit smaller than that of the ECX 10-2. But the frame is actually 2 inches shorter in overall length, but it is the exact same width as the ECX 10-2. So, which is pretty cool because then you can find all those really cool bumpers that you wanted to get, and you can actually make them work on the ECX Barrage because it's the overall same width, for the most part. Looking at the overall height of both trucks, if you were to look at them head on, you'll notice that both trucks are about the same height. The ECX Barrage is just a little bit shorter than that. So again, I'm not entirely sure on the overall length of the shocks on this, so if you guys know, feel free to post in the comment. Might be able to help somebody out for that. But overall, it's not a bad sized crawler. It's actually might get into some areas that you won't normally be able to get in with a little bit of a larger vehicle. So I can see some pretty cool friggin' builds going on with this guy. I'm actually quite excited because I actually have some stuff laying around here, some crawler stuff that will work with this, and we're going to show you guys that here coming up in a couple of weeks. But overall, not bad at all. Alright guys, well that's pretty much does it for today's video on the ECX Barrage. Like I keep saying, I am very excited about this thing. For its size, for its price, for what you actually get in this truck right out of the box, I am pretty excited. It's not normally stuff that you would normally find on a 1/10 scale truck. So, quite a few adventures with this thing I can see. I see some future upgrades coming as well. So stick around because we're going to have a lot of fun with it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. You find this thing interesting. If you want to know more about it, I'll post a link to the Horizon Hobbies page of it down in the description box, so feel free to check that out. If you guys have any more questions about this truck, or you just want to leave a cool comment, feel free to hit the comment section below, hit like, and if you're not subscribed to my channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button as well. Would really appreciate that. And until next time, you guys, have fun, and I'll see you guys on the next RC Overload. Later.